Universe, where you learn the secrets of the social media through the social universe, and in many cases, the secrets of the universe itself. And we are joined today by my amazing lunch salad and Dr. Kim, who is the co-creator and co-CEO of the Vita Center. Tell us a little bit about the Vita Center and the mindset that you have, and when a patient comes in, how they kind of the paradigm that they'll be treated through.
Sure. The Vita Center, just to give an actual real physical place, it's a part of Phoenix Natural Medicine and Detox Center, which is on Roosevelt and 3rd Avenue.
Okay.
So,
which, by the way, is a very beautiful kind of a Greenwich Village part of town. So,
yeah.
Definitely a fun place.
So for us, what we believe at the Vita Center is that the body is designed perfectly to function perfectly. So now, and everything that's happening that you might call dis-ease is just a manifestation or a corrective measure that your body is making to save your life. And so, that your body never makes a mistake. That humble place that a doctor comes from will change the way you get treated as a patient. So instead of, oh, you got this, well, I'm sorry, or this is something you have to manage. All we have to do, all we have to do is remove the obstacles that prevent you from being the best you that you can be. And that's it. And every part of your body, more or less, depending on where you read, other than, bone cells and brain cells, you are a complete new you. It takes 72 hours for you to get new rods and cones in your eyes, 2 weeks or so to get a new gut lining. I don't want to say it's an expiration date, but there's a turnover time for the cells that are there. It's a renewal date.
Yeah.
And so, in fact, it takes you 9 months to get a brand new liver.
Is that it?
Mm-hmm.
So here's some good news. If somebody, if you have, now don't say, well, it only takes me 9 months to get a new liver, but if you have been doing some things that are maybe not so good for your liver, whether it's taking too many pharmaceuticals, you've been drinking alcohol, you've been taking too many supplements, whatever it is, if you then change your behavior in a way that is nutritious to the liver and is conducive to a good liver, within 8-9 months, you just might find yourself having a better liver.
Right, absolutely.
That's amazing.
And so because you know that every part of you has a renewal date, all we have to do, this means like your actual birthday can actually be a new birth for you. Every year you can be a new you. That knowledge, it gives you 2 things. One thing is that, oh gosh, it gives you a sense of personal responsibility, meaning, okay, so some of the actions that I have done, some of the things that I've done is contributing to my current state. But a year from now, it doesn't have to be that way. You don't have to have the pains and the aches and the different chronic illnesses that you had a year ago.
How about your ligaments and sinews?
That takes a little bit longer. That is true. But a lot of the pain and things like that can actually be mitigated quite a bit with therapy and things like that. But your diet plays a crucial role, because where does your body, to make repairs from repeated use, where does your body get the raw materials to make those repairs? It gets it from your food,
yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
And so, so that's why it's so pivotal. If you think about, if you're eating McDonald's all the time, that's what your body has to use to build your, burgers, fries. I shouldn't have said the actual company name. I just realized.
Oh, that's fine. You know what? I will, just to defend McDonald's a moment, and then get ourselves in trouble in another big name brand. Is that there are comparisons between the amount of calories and the amount of nutrition that are in Subway sandwiches versus McDonald's, and there's actually not a ton of difference. The difference was the PR of the guy who did his little sub sandwich diet, and all of a sudden, and because they put more, I don't know, their lettuce is greener. I don't know.
But the thing is that it's the caliber of food is going to be directly reflected on, what kind of body you're going to have. They talk about you are what you eat, and that's true because that's what it has to build with. And so, the other part of it, to kind of take it a step further, is okay, so what are we eating? Like, if we want to eat something that's right now, the vast majority of us eat things that are dead.
That's true. I eat
We
some
say
dead
cooked.
chicken.
We say cooked. That's a good word. These are words that we use to, I think, kind of help us understand. Instead of dead, it sounds a little harsh to be like, oh yeah, honey, what do you want for dinner? Dead chicken and dead pigs and, slathered with sugar and high fructose corn syrup. You don't want to, that doesn't sound very tantalizing. But we're eating things that are dead. Even vegetarians and vegans even, they're eating dead animals. Or dead plants, I'm sorry. Dead plants. The plants are dead. The enzymatic activity is not happening there. And so we're one of the very few people that, members of, I guess, Earth species,
yeah,
right?
Guess,
that eat dead things.
Buzzards.
Yeah, right. So that's who we become. We are like buzzards, and except buzzards, because they are actually in tune with nature's laws. They actually so the carnivores, they eat the animals, right? And then as soon as the kill happens, it's a couple days later, and then the buzzards come after that.
Right.
But a couple days after that, they don't eat that anymore.
Right. No, they don't.
Because it's the maggot food and other fungus and all of that. So we're actually closer to maggots. Because when we eat things like, we talked about aged beef before, right?
Yeah.
How they process that?
No,
they hang it. They hang it and they let it rot.
Oh yeah.
That's how it aged. How do they age it, and why does it get soft? Because it's breaking down. And I'm not saying that I'm not, poo-pooing on people who eat meat. That's
or
not
maggots.
it at all. Or
There's
maggots.
nothing wrong with people who eat
maggots.
I've eaten maggots before.
Or cockroaches, or whomever. So.
I've eaten grasshoppers.
Really?
Yes.
So it's not that, but I'm exaggerating for emphasis, I think, to just really think about why we're eating. To be more cognizant of what we're putting in our bodies, because that is what your body has to now use to build you. So, if you're going to have, animals, if you want animal on animal products, I would at least make sure that it's clean, that it was treated well, and that it was eating what it needs to eat.
Very good point. Could you give a couple of examples of that? If I'm going to eat beef, obviously you should be eating white meat over red meat. However, if you're going to eat red meat, with the best care, some guidelines.
Right. So I would definitely go with organic, grass-fed, and grass-finished beef. So as far as grass-fed, they're like, well, of course we feed our cows grass. Not always. Not always. I would look into it. What they're actually being fed. They can be fed corn.
It's where mad cow disease came from. Is they started eating themselves.
Yeah. And so what they're getting fed, and even if they are being fed grass for the majority of their lifetime, sometimes what happens is that they get fed massive amounts of grains right before slaughter, so that they get fattened, and so they achieve that weight gain goal before to maximize production is what happens. And to me, what happens is that the other part of it is a component. If you can't get the organic grass-fed beef, what I would do, the closest thing, for like I'm in the middle of nowhere and I can't find, the nearest Whole Foods is 1,000 miles away or whatever, then what you can do is get halal meat.
Okay.
Halal meat, because they do, pray over it, and there's a specific way. It's least traumatic, because that actually, if you think about muscle memory, when you're, working out with Orange Theory, there's a certain muscle memory, and every emotion and things like that actually, it comes into your body. This is why the acupuncture and myofascial release, these are so effective, because, all kinds of stressors from every aspect of who we are, mind, body, and spirit, are going to impact every other part of ourselves.
Sure.
And when that happens, you remember that. And if you think about with the importance of how the slaughter process happens, that's the last thing that is going to stay in that animal's body, and
Very
you're
true.
going to eat that, and that's going to become you. So these are the things, just to be more present in that process.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it is.
Similar for chicken, only it would be more range.
Free range,
Free range, there we go,
cage
that's
free,
right.
that kind of things. So it's less traumatic. Yeah, so they use a lot of hormones, antibiotics, make sure that those things aren't happening either. Because again, the vegan standpoint, just looking at that, is that you get a high concentration of arachidonic acid in animal protein, which is the first step, which is the first compound to the COX or cyclooxygenase pathway, which is the pro-inflammatory pathway. So when we talk about COX-2 inhibitors, when we talk about medications, that's what that enzyme is, what it's stopping to stop inflammation. So what you're doing by eating more animal proteins is pushing that process further. So we're like, you don't want to necessarily be constantly inflamed.
So if you're eating a lot of meat while you're working out, it may inflame your joints, which you're trying to not inflame your joints. You know,
Right.
if you happen to have knee problems or whatever.
These are important things. But yeah, to just really keep in mind what you're eating.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, when you eat it, and to be present in that process would be what I would say.
Wonderful. I appreciate that. I'm going to share one little nugget here, and because this is more about Dr. Kim's knowledge than mine, but just a personal thing. I have been trying. We haven't really talked about pH balance. That has a little bit to do with the juicing, and we'll pick that up later. But I started at night after I work out, because I do a heavy workout where I nearly pass out. Orange Theory is just really working me hard, and I come home and I have a chicken breast with some cheese, which is not what you would recommend. But then what she does recommend is, would approve of, Dr. Kim would approve of, is I take collard greens, the big leafy collard greens, and I make a lettuce wrap out of it. And for the first time in 3 years, my pH dial has moved to where it's supposed to be from the collard greens. So if anybody's trying out there, just a little helpful hint that even with the bad chicken and the bad cheese, it actually will more than pH balance me. So collard greens for anybody, and they're actually quite good. A lot of people think of collard greens like Popeye spinach in a can. I'm talking about fresh, organic collard greens that are really wide and leafy, and it replaces bread. So it also reduces calories, which is a side byproduct. All right, back to you.
Absolutely. No, that's absolutely great. What I do after working out is a really tall glass of juice.
Uh-huh.
The reason being is that when you work out a lot, you feel the burn feeling.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, oh, it's burning. That's lactic acid buildup.
Yes,
Because your body is, when it goes through, there's two types of ways your body will produce energy from the food or the stores that you have. It's fermentation is one of them, and which lactic acid is a byproduct of that. And then that's what happens when you don't have enough oxygen. Because when you get that Charlie horse, or when you feel that burn, what do? You have to stop, stretch, and breathe, because then that'll switch it back to something called aerobic respiration, which that's the way that your body wants to, and it's a more efficient way of breaking down sugar to make, or food to make energy.
Right.
So when that's happening, so lactic acid, it's an acid, so it's going to build up, and so your body pH is becoming as a whole more acidic.
Yeah.
So what happens is that having the lemon water and having things like leafy green vegetables, which alkalinize the body, as a whole will help move the body pH closer to neutral, or closer to where it needs to be. So, and we have to also remember that because we're not just our bodies, we're our body, mind, and spirit. You know what I mean? We are a whole being. I'm a huge
believer. In fact, this is actually one of the reasons I wanted to bring Dr. Kim on the show, is her belief, and is so akin to mine, that it's not that I am anti-big business. I mean, here's who I really am. I'm going to come out of the closet. I am a cowboy conservative, a conservative cowboy, whatever you want to say. I grew up all but carnivore, very conservative, political values, et cetera, et cetera. And that's who I am. So you're probably, my listeners on both sides of the aisle might be a little bit confused why I'm hanging out with the granola types and okay. But it's because there's truth in it, and I really truly believe, even though it might sound like I'm making an anti-business statement, that if we got rid of about 80% of the pharmaceuticals out there, the world would be a better place if and only if we replaced it with holistic solutions. So that all of these, I mean, for example, in working out with Orange Theory, I went from a 120/80, which is good on my blood pressure, and I don't know if it's good or bad. It just happened. I'm now at a 94/74.
Okay. With that, what the top number of blood pressure is the systolic, which means that how much pressure is exerted on all of the piping that's in your body, right? When it's squeezing.
Okay.
And then what happens in the bottom number is how much constant pressure is being exerted on against the walls of your piping when your heart is at rest.
Sure.
So if it doesn't require as much pressure, and
the heart's working less hard.
Less hard.
Okay.
And the thing is that wear and tear on any machine is not recommended, right? So it's almost like, oh, I don't want to. That's why people have a luxury car when they're independently wealthy, they'll have a luxury car or like a weekender car,
Sure.
and then they'll have a commuter car because they know how much wear and tear
Mileage
goes in that
goes on
car.
You bet.
So,
with the exception, though, our body with exercise, is within reason. The more mileage you put on it, actually, the better it gets.
of course, you have to. It's in a different way. What we mean by mileage in that is like abusive.
You know what? Very
mileage.
good point. Abusive mileage of overworking your heart.
Right.
So, in other words, with that pressure. Whereas if you run a marathon, then that is good for the heart potentially.
Right. So how and the thing that I would ask you is, what is your heart rate? With resting heart rate. If that has also.
I should check. I actually have a Garmin monitor, so that when I run, I know it like monitors everything about me, and it does come back to the resting heart rate. It was 108, so I'll figure out what it is now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So these are so when it's higher like that, then I would say, well, why does your heart have to beat so quickly to maintain?
Now, when I say 108, okay, so let's say that so where that 108 came from is that I would run 4 miles, for example, maybe even 6 to 8 miles, and then all I would know is that as I'm driving home, there would be a little thing that would pop up and say 108 resting heart rate. How long afterward is the resting heart rate measured?
It needs to be a good. It depends on where you are health wise.
Okay.
But I would actually check about maybe a half an hour after to see where you are.
Yeah, this is not probably 10 minutes afterwards, so that might be part of the reason it's high. So I don't know. I just need to check it and keep in
Check it when you wake up.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, check it when you wake up. So that'll be like the lowest resting heart rate.
And then we'll find out.
Yeah, then you'll find out. Yeah.
Okay.
So.
Well, we'll get back to you on my personal statistics that I've thrown out there. But so what I want to do is lead up and set the stage for to talk about in the next segment about your book. We talked a little bit about the Vita Center, and I think our listeners are able to get a feel for the way they'll be treated. They're going to, essentially, when you come into the Vita Center, they're going to take a holistic view of you. They're going to meet you where you're at. You know, if you're like me and you used to be a carnivore, it's just great to be able to add in lots of fruits and vegetables, which is a huge improvement. So that's one way you might treat somebody like me. Whereas somebody who comes in already as a vegan, you're going to meet them where they're at and treat them in a different way to help them become whole.
Of course.
So that's pretty much, and what the endorsement I want to give is that it's my opinion that the world holistically has everything we need in it to become healthy, and the less drugs and chemicals we can jam into our body, the better. And I mean, it's easy enough just to become addicted to food, much less all the other chemicals that are out there.
Right,
So,
and I try to think about it this way: why do you have that? That's the question that I always ask. Is that okay? I have a headache. Okay, so why do you have that? And barring, and then the next question is, what do you do for it? And if they say, and 9 times out of 10,
aspirin.
Yeah, aspirin or Tylenol, right? Tylenol. So my statement is to that is, barring that your headache is not caused by a Tylenol deficiency, Tylenol is not going to be the permanent answer, ever. Or, I mean, and again, and this is another,
Discussion.
it's a whole other discussion, but Tylenol is another brand name. I don't know how that works.
Oh, yeah.
I feel bad about it.
We apologize
I
to
feel badly.
Tylenol versus, aspirin, which is more generic. But
Yeah.
the point is that what I love about the Vita Center is that they're going to meet you where you're at, and then they're going to take you to that next level, whatever that next level is.
Mhm.
So everybody is going to be treated inside of their own system. I hate to say it, but some doctors, they prescribe the same thing, antibiotics, antibiotics, and then they're on out the door.
Yeah.
That's not the way you're going to be treated at the Vita Center.
Mhm.
And that they actually have they have an apothecary there, they have a juice center there. Is that where, are you drinking juices from there?
Yes, organic
Okay.
juice bar.
Uh-huh.
This is actually, I have a little bit of kombucha here that I have from home, and then I have a little bit of something called a green machine added to it. So this is that.
You bet.
So I kind of carry that around with me.
Bit of a teaser. We're going to talk about
Teaser.
that in the next
Teaser.
segment, about why you should be juicing, and that so with that apothecary there, with a juicing center there, and also with the view that they have on the holistic medicinal side, going through a whole array of holistic services,
Yeah.
I think you're going to be in great hands. So go to thevitacenter.com, the phone number.
It's 602-307-0888.
And you can ask for Dr. Kim. However, she does have some partners in there that, well, I'm sure will treat you just as well as Dr. Kim.
They're great.
So we're going to be ending this segment. When we come back, we're going to be talking more about juicing and Dr. Kim's ebook, which is...
To juice or not to juice, there is no question.
You bet. We'll be right back after the break.